All right, let's talk about perspective. Drawing in perspective is one of my very favorite things to do. Real quick, let's just set a little bit of groundwork, kind of a foundation. So when you're drawing in perspective, like right now, just starting out, we're going to draw in single point perspective. And this line right here is called a horizon line. Or eye level line. And I use those terms interchangeably, but they can also be specific. Horizon line being where the sky meets the ground, out in a distance, or if something is like in the room that you're looking at, your eye level line may be above it or below it depending on where you're at. So that just gives you a little clarification there. And then also, just any place on the horizon line would be, in single point perspective, a single vanishing point. And just for simplicity, I'm going to use this clear ruler. Helps me get all of the lines parallel, because in single point perspective, the rules are simple. All vertical lines are parallel with the edge of the paper, and all horizontal lines are parallel to the horizon line. So we start with a shape. Shapes are two-dimensional. We want to make it a form. We want to make it three-dimensional. So here's step one. Put a shape down. So here's one. Just label it right there, number one. And we want to make some vanishing lines. That's what I call them. It works best for my classroom to call them that. Other people call them different things. We like vanishing lines. And what you're doing is just simply taking these three corners that have a direct line of sight to the vanishing point and creating a line. You notice that I didn't continue those through. If you are still struggling with accuracy of going from this corner to your vanishing point, then you can draw the whole line. But I know that down the road, a portion of this line I'm not going to need, and so I can leave it out now and then not have to erase it later. But you can see how this is starting to turn into a form already. So step two are these vanishing lines. I call them vanishing lines because they go towards the vanishing point. Step three is just to define where the back end is. Again, vertical lines are going towards, or parallel, the vanishing point. And there's the back end. Step three, right back here. Now you've got a form, and we could go in and erase these things here. I've got this eraser here. And that is basically how to create a form, in this case a cube, in single point perspective. An important second step to making a form in single point perspective is then to create like a glass box, if you will. You're anticipating the other three sides. Here we can see this side that's facing toward us, this one facing up, and this one facing to the left. And we wanted to then create a visual for the side on the other side here that's facing right, this one that's facing towards the vanishing point, and the bottom. So now we can then put this line in here. Now, what I tell my students is let's consider or anticipate what we're going to do next, and it might save us some time. We know that this back corner is going to stop when it reaches this back corner, and so drawing this big heavy line all the way through your drawing may not be necessary. So if I take this line and very lightly draw it past where I can foresee these lines coming together, then that's long enough, and it saves me from having to do some major erasing. Again, it's not necessary, but can be helpful. And there we go. Erase the unnecessary vanishing line, and now we have a clear box. Okay, now we have a clean sheet of paper again, and we're going to do the second part in my classroom for single point perspective. If you're following along with me, it's important to leave yourself a little bit of space here and leave your vanishing point off to one side so you have more space to draw on one side than another. For practice sake, I like to have students draw 3 shapes below the horizon line, 3 on the horizon line, and 3 above. The shapes that are above and below follow the same steps as we just covered, but the shapes that are on the horizon line maybe are a little different. So we'll just simply put a shape in here quickly. Okay. And it's important to remember shapes are 2-dimensional and forms are 3-dimensional. So now we follow the rules. All these corners that can see or have a direct line of sight to the vanishing point are put in, and then we put the back end in, and believe it or not, that's all we need, because it is covering, or it's overlapping, the horizon line or eye level line. We can neither see the top nor see underneath it. But now, the second part, making it clear, we need to then put in these lines, and then this one is next, making sure, hardest part about this is making sure that that line is parallel to the horizon line. If it's not, it's going to mess all sorts of things up. Now we're not using grid paper or graph paper, and so it's not going to be absolutely perfect, but you can see now we have the sides, both the sides here and here, the top, the bottom, this back end that's facing the vanishing point, and this front end that's facing towards our eye. So that is the drawing shapes on the horizon line. And very quickly I can demonstrate once again. I'll show you the drawing of vanishing shape or a form in above the horizon line here. Now, you can be creative with these shapes. I'm simply putting these in, but you don't have to be so simple in your shapes. See, things didn't quite line up right there, which is okay, because like I said, we're not using grid paper, and it's no big deal. Same steps below the horizon line. That is single point perspective, basically.